Hey guys, it's Maymay and I am back to make another wreath for you guys today. And this wreath is made with some burlap. And before we get started, I want to talk to you about this burlap. This is a 9-inch burlap. Let me make sure I'm telling you right. Yep, this is a 9-inch burlap. And it's a little firmer than a lot of burlaps that you'll find. And that's the reason I think it works on this wreath so well. This is 9 inches wide by 10 yards long. And what we're going to do is just cut 9-inch strips. We just want squares, okay? Now, there's going to be some differences to this wreath than how I've done some other wreaths in the past that I've shown you how to do. And that is, I'm going to show you how to make this wreath so it can easily be taken apart next year and turn the base into a different wreath. A lot of times it's a good way to save money is by reusing those wreath forms over and over again. I really like to do that. So there'll be no hot glue on this wreath. I'm just going to show you a way to do it so that you can reuse it if you want to. So what we're going to do is go through and cut every single bit of this burlap down to 9 by 9 inch squares. I want to talk to you about this rotary cutter as well. I picked this guy up at Joann's when they had a big Fisker sale. I got it for like 50 or 60% off or something like that. And for the longest time I thought, oh, I don't need a rotary cutter, I'll just use my scissors. But I gotta tell you something, it makes this job so much faster. And I even kind of take my time and I still get through it so much faster. So let's get all these cut and then we'll show you what other materials we're gonna use. Now, like I said, I used my rotary cutter for this, but if you have some of these Tim Holtz shears that are the long ones, they make this job easy too. And it could just be any long shears. So we're through with this guy now. After cutting all of that, this is what I have left, just this little strip from that whole length of burlap. Now, I told you I was going to show you some of the other things we're going to use. This ribbon we're going to use is so cute. It says Happy Fall, y'all. Isn't that cute as it can be? It says it all the way down, and we're just going to use one strip of that. And we're going to use some of this plaid. Whoops, everything came running. We're also going to use some of this plaid wired ribbon. I picked both of these up at a local outlet called Cafco Floral Outlet, which is actually where I saw this wreath made and decided to duplicate it. Then we're also going to use some of these sunflowers, just 5 of those. We're also going to use some zip ties and some chenille stems. Now, the zip ties are kind of the secret for this wreath. I have never made a wreath with zip ties until I did this one. I've already made one of these because this wreath is from my mother's house, so I'm making 2 of these. So I wanted to show you guys how this works. The other thing is, using the chenille stems, the wreath we're going to make today is going to be one that you can take everything off of and reuse this wreath form again because we're using no hot glue. All right, so let's get started. Grab out a bunch of your zip ties. You can also use these shorter zip ties if you're comfortable with that, but I found that the longer ones are easier for me to hold in my hand. It seems a little wasteful because we're going to cut a good bit of it off, but it still is easier to do. All right, so here's our piece of burlap. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to scrunch this up in the middle and make a ruffle, just like that, okay? We're going to take another piece of burlap right beside that one and scrunch it up with it. Now you might think, why didn't we just cut one big long strip of burlap? Well, because we're going to be moving these around, so we want the ruffly movement. Now for the next one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit these on top of that piece, and I'm going to ruffle this burlap underneath those 2. I'll show you what I mean when I get done. So instead of going right beside it, it's kind of underneath it. See it there? You don't have to do that. I just found that it's the easiest way for me. Then we're going to take a zip tie and lay it on top. Trick about zip ties that a lot of you may know. You want to lay your zip tie where the portion that goes in, okay, is on top. If you flip these the wrong way, they won't zip right. I don't know why that is, but they won't. So now you're going to stick this little guy in there and start to pull. Now, don't seal it all the way down, and here's why. At this point, we're going to take one of those chenille stems and feed it through underneath that zip tie. Now what I like to do is take my scissors and cut this piece the same width as my burlap. You don't have to do that. You can just leave it on there and use a whole piece. But I use these later and I'll show you how. Alright, so now that we've got our chenille stem in, we can seal this down as tight as it will go. And the tighter you make the middle, the more ruffle you'll get when we go to fluff these guys out, which we won't fluff them until they're on the wreath holder, okay? Now you want to cut that off because you don't need that anymore. And see how much we're cutting away, but honestly, the longer one is just easier to hold. So now you have the chenille stem secured in the zip tie, and you have 3 ruffles also in the zip tie. Don't worry about doing this now. I'm just showing you how that works, okay? You need to do this with every single piece you cut. 3 pieces, ruffled, zip tied, and chenilled. I'm going to do that and then meet you back. So now we're on to our work wreath. Now this wreath form is a 14-inch wire wreath form that you can pick up just about anywhere. Even Walmart carries these. And we're going to fill it up. Notice how flat this piece is after I did it, because I just made them kind of assembly line style and it's flat. I'm not stressing about this. We'll fluff that later. What we want are these 2 pieces here. Now we're going to put those 2 pipe stems over the 2 center rings inside of the 2 outer rings, just like this. Okay, then I'm going to flip it over and show you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take the back and twist it on, just like we did on Wednesday with that other wreath. That's how we're attaching these. Okay, so we're just going to do one and then the other all the way around. I ended up having one of the burlap pieces that only has 2 in it, and I went ahead with it. I'm not going to worry about it. It'll be in here. I think this is it. It'll get mixed in. It'll be no big deal. I want you to notice something on this one. I'm not doing this one as tight as I did the Geo Mesh wreath on Wednesday. The reason for that is this burlap is so firm that as I put it on, it'll move around, but as it all gets on there, it'll catch up and it'll be fine. So if it moves around some, no big deal. I promise, once you get all of these onto this wreath, it'll be so full and so pretty. Another thing about these kind of wreaths, everybody says, you make it look easy. I promise it is easy. And I'll tell you something else. These wreaths always look bad before they look good. I want to show you something. Look how terrible that looks. It's all flat and gross, but I promise when we finish it'll look so pretty. So just keep adding these guys on. Now I want to show you. It looks okay, right? It's not fluffed yet. It's just been put onto the work ring. And let me turn this over and show you something. I ended up putting 2 in every section. So I went back, because I was putting about 3 in, so to make it fit, I went back and only did 2 in each section. So everywhere there's a crossbar, there's 2 between them. Now I'm just going to cut these dudes off. This is just like we did on our wreath on Wednesday. If you didn't see the Wednesday wreath, I will link it below. It's done with Geo Mesh instead of burlap. My mom's not real big on Geo Mesh, but she didn't mind this burlap. As a matter of fact, I want to tell y'all, this wreath that I'm doing is a literal replication of one we saw at the store that my mom really liked. I fell in love with it too, and they wanted like $66 for it, and she wanted 2 of them. Now the thing about this store is this. It is a floral factory outlet, so they put things up to be inspiration for you. They want you to be inspired, and they sell all the products in the store. So I was inspired. And I appreciate them. Matter of fact, the lady who made the wreath even helped me find all the products and told me some tips and tricks, and I'm sharing those with you today too. All right, so all cut off and ready to fluff. Now when we fluff, this is all you gotta do. Reach in here and grab and pull those little ruffles out. And see how already you don't see the twist ties? As you fluff, the zip ties, you really won't see them as you fluff. You'll really hide them. And also, as we decorate, it'll hide them too. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. Now it's time to put the pretties on. Now this part may be a little trickier for you guys to see, but this is my ribbon and I'm leaving it on the roll. I'm not cutting it loose. Matter of fact, I'm going to lay that over there. I'm going to take this ribbon, and to get started, I'm going to make 2 loops. One about this big, and then one slightly smaller, just like this. Okay? Then I'm going to pinch this at the bottom, and I'm going to put a zip tie, not a zip tie, but a chenille stem here to hold that in place. So it's not a bow, it's just a couple of loops. Okay? Now I'm going to find a spot in here where I can stick the chenille stems through to the work wreath and put this in place. Flip this over and show you what I'm talking about. Just going to zip tie this, I keep saying zip tie, just twist tie that on. So now I've got a couple of loops in the wreath, okay? Now I'm just going to take this piece that I didn't cut loose, and I'm just going to continue down, and this looks like a good spot to tuck it. I'm going to tuck it, take another chenille stem, and place it here. Then I'm going to find where I can send it down to the work wreath between the burlap pieces. Then underneath, I'm just going to twist it together. You may not be able to see that because I'm trying to do this face up. So I'm just going to twist it behind, just like I just flipped and showed you. Out of the way, you're not going to see it. All right, so now I've got loops here, got a piece secured here. Now I'm going to come up this way. This is what I love about it being two-sided. See how I kind of flipped it? I'm going to come up this way, and I'm going to make another couple of loops. So I'm just going to loop like so, another loop, and then I'm going to chenille stem that. Just pinching it, wrap that chenille stem around and twist. And I'm going to take these loops and tuck them in this area. Wrapping the chenille stems around the work wreath behind it and twisting it on. See if I can show you that part. So just twist all the way around. I'm not trying to get through anything there. All right, so now we have, see how I'm moving it where I want it? That's what you'll do too. It's wired so you can move it around. So now we have loops and pieces of ribbon just intertwined. I'm going to bring this over here and do the same thing, but this time I'm going to cut this off. And I'm going to cut it about 4 inches away from where I'm going to chenille stem it down. I'm trying to do this in the camera so you guys can see it. So see how I'm going to tuck that in that open spot? Don't worry how it looks just yet. I do that all the time. I start fluffing before I'm done. And you can do that too. You can go ahead and fluff. I had another question recently about what to do about how much your hands start to hurt to work with the burlap and the twisties and things like that. And it does hurt after a little while. What I suggest, if your hands are sensitive, get you some of those like really lightweight gardening gloves and wear those while you do this, because it can get to you. Especially for like me, and I think I'm getting an allergy to burlap. Can y'all believe that? Every time I use it, I just feel like, oh, something's not right. Okay, now then, I'm going to bring this guy over here and kind of make it look like it was all connected, but not necessarily. So there's the beginning, and I know it doesn't look like much yet, but wait till we add the goodies. The first part of the goodies we're going to add are these pretty flowers. Aren't they gorgeous? I'm going to move this out of the way for a second while I show you how I prep these flowers. So the flowers in the back have leaves and petals, and there's kind of a separation between the two. Can you see how those separate there? What I'm going to do is take a chenille stem and place it inside of that separation and pull it through the back. So basically, I'm making wired flowers for my wreath. So now I have something to attach it to my wreath with. See that? Let's do another one. Separation. Stick a chenille stem in there, pull it around, and another wired piece for our wreath. Okay, so I'm going to do that with all 5 of these. And by the way, I like to work in odd numbers, so I would either do 3 flowers or 5 flowers, but I typically don't do 4. Now the wreath at the Cafco place where I was at, they actually had 4, and it looked really good, but I'm an odd number person, so here we go. So now I have all of my flowers wired with their chenille piece. And what I'm going to do, and it's probably going to be really hard for me here to show you. First, with this one, I'm just going to put it in here and wrap this chenille stem into the burlap. Let me show you with another piece. So this is just a piece of the burlap. I'm sort of going to sew these on, and here's what I mean. I'm going to make sure I've got these wrapped around the flower, okay? And where I want it on the wreath, I'm going to stick that chenille stem through the burlap and stick the other piece through the burlap, and then I'm going to twist them together and they'll stay on the wreath just like that without any hot glue. So I wanted to show you using a piece of burlap so when I'm doing it on the wreath you'll kind of get an idea of what I'm doing. So we're going to kind of stitch these on. There's just no rules to this stuff. You know, as long as your project stays together, how you attach them is totally whatever's comfortable for you. And this works for me. Super easy. So again, just finding some burlap to run that chenille stem through. Meet them together at some point and twist them. And they don't have to be tight, because once they're twisted, they're not coming loose. Then you can tuck it, and you can move your flower to where you want it. Check that out. I love that. Isn't that cool? All right. I don't know if this is how they attached them at the floral store, but this is how I thought I was going to do it. So I want this one in that area. So I'm going to thread it through some burlap here, kind of low on this one. And then thread it through the next piece. And actually, I'm going to come across because I want those loops to show. So I'm going to cross this ribbon here and twist them here. And then tuck. And so there's our next flower attached, kind of stitched on. Now I'm going to put one in this area, doing the same thing. I wish I had a better way to show you guys. But here's basically it. Find a piece like this one, thread that through the burlap, find another piece like this one, thread that through, then go back and meet them and twist. Then tuck that down so you can't see it, but your flower's in place. Let's add another one. This one's going to go kind of in this area, the right way up, not upside down. When you're doing this at home, you won't be like me, wrapped around the room trying to reach over to do this. You'll be able to do this really much easier. So thread a chenille stem. I'm sticking it under that ribbon, like so. Thread it through something here. Pull that up and twist them together. Then tuck and hide it. Then put your flower where you want it because you've wired it on. Isn't that cool? All right, last one is going to go in this area. And I'm tucking this one in a little deeper too because I don't want them to seem all perfectly in line and all perfectly the same. Then behind this burlap, I'll twist it into place, tuck that chenille stem and hide it. So now you see how we've used zero hot glue, none, and we put this guy together. Now for the next part, which is so cute. So I showed you this ribbon, right? This Happy Fall Y'all ribbon. I love it. I'm going to cut a piece away. And this whole spool of ribbon is like this. And let me even those up a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to cut a little dovetail in the end. Here's how you do that. You fold your selvage ends of the ribbon together. And then from the fold, cut out to the selvage at an angle. And then you get a dovetail. Super easy. Let's do the other end. Fold the selvage or the wired edges together, cut on the fold, out and to the wire, and you got a little banner. It's so cute. It's going in the middle. Remember those pieces that we cut off that I told you not to get rid of? I'm going to use some in this area. And this is not the only place you can use them. There's lots of places to use these little chenille stems. I've pinched that together, and I'm going to wrap this chenille around it. And we're just going to make a little banner that we're going to stitch on using these little pieces to the burlap. So there's one end. Pinch this together. Wrap the chenille around it. Twist it. Okay, so you can see I've made just kind of some legs. And now back to the wreath. This is our wreath, and I'm going to try to do this facing you guys. So this little banner is going to run across this way. Isn't that adorable? I love it. I'm going to find a piece of burlap back here that I can stick these two little chenille pieces, the little legs we made, through and stitch them on. So there's that piece, and we can fix the little end. Then I'm going to do the same on this side. Stitch it through a piece of burlap and twist it on. I'll flip this where you can see. See, I've stitched that through. Twist it, lay it down. And that's it, guys. That's your Happy Fall wreath. I did that upside down, and see how I can kind of move it because this burlap is so thick? That's what I love about this burlap. You can adjust it using the burlap. So you'll be able to see this better in pictures as usual, but that is it. And it is so easy. Please give it a try. Don't be afraid. It's just ribbon. It's just chenille stems. No hot glue, so no intimidation there. And guess what? You can tell all your neighbors happy fall, y'all. Thanks for joining me today, guys. I will see you again next time. Actually, I'll see you on Monday where we're back to paper crafting. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.